You've got to have their cooperation and connection and collaboration to do it together and not have it just be you pushing something on them, and come to them with clarifying the problem rather than just coming to them with a solution.
You're listening to Parenting with Impact, the podcast for parents like you, raising complex kids to become capable, independent adults, even in this complicated world. Each episode brings expert insights and real-life strategies to help you parent with confidence, calm, and clarity. Here are your hosts, Elaine and Diane.
Welcome back, everybody, to another conversation in the Parenting with Impact podcast. And you have Diane and me here, and we are talking about the thing that we love and loathe most about back to school season, because this is, I guess still technically back to school season for some people. We're going to talk about.
We're recording this in like October. This is airing in October of 2025, and we're getting ready to, actually at the end of September in 2025, and we're getting ready to do an event in October of 2025 that's around homework and homework headaches. Homework without headaches, I think is what the workshop's called.
Homework without headaches is coming up in October, on October 16th. So if you're listening to this before then, join us to this after then. You might want to buy it.
Right. Or join one of our programs and then you can get it for free.
There you go. But we're going to set the stage because it's September and most of us are back to school in some capacity or another, no matter how old your kids are. And everybody's got work that they have to bring home from school in some capacity. Right?
Well, most kids. There are some schools that still, like, if you've got a kid in Montessori, you might not have homework. But I've got a client with a Montessori kid and they've reached grade 5, and all of a sudden they do have to bring stuff home and it's a whole new world. But do we want to start by talking just generally about some of the common challenges, Elaine? Is that kind of a way to step into it? So when I think about this, it's like our kids might be a last minute kind of person. They're waiting to the last minute, particularly if something's like an overtime assignment, say I've got to write a paper or I've got something that's due next week. So one of the challenges is like they're waiting to the last minute, or they're missing deadlines. Or what else?
The project, right? There are a lot of things that can happen when kids have a project because those are multi-stepped. And so you've got last minute stuff, you've got planning, you've got sequencing, you've got prioritizing. There are all kinds of executive functions involved with doing a project.
So let's hold on that and talk about why it's a problem, because that's what's really going on underneath most of these problems is executive function challenges. So let's just kind of list the problems. So it might be that they're forgetting to turn things in, or it never makes it out of the backpack, or you get to the middle of the semester and all of a sudden they're missing 14 assignments, which like our record was I think 27, 30, something like that at some point with one of my kids. I won't tell you which one, but it's
a record, or they were keeping a record.
They were keeping a record. But so there's all these things that might be going on around homework, and for me, there's kind of two parts of this, Elaine. What you just started, which is like the what's going on underneath it and the executive functions it takes to do that. But then there's this other piece that we forget, that homework isn't just do your homework. There's actually steps to it, and it requires several pieces. And we've got this list of the 12 steps of homework. Do we want to just kind of list the 12 steps of homework to capture it? No, we're not. Okay. But there's more than one step. It's not just do your homework. It's like it starts with even noticing and knowing that you have homework, and it's ending with turning it in. But there's lots of stuff that fits in the in-between.
So let me step back for a minute. Let me bring you back over a dozen years to when Diane and I first started doing Impact ADHD at the time. And one of the very first programs we created was called Homework Headaches. And when we did that, one of the things Diane created was what she used to call the 12 steps from the pillow to the bus stop. Is that right?
No, there's 20 steps from the pillow to the bus stop. It's 12 steps of homework.
12 steps of homework. And a lot of the steps are kind of invisible, right? We don't really realize when we talk about breaking things down or chunking them, we don't really realize how many steps we as adults kind of assume, or we group together, or we don't break it down enough a lot of times for our kids. And so we get frustrated that they haven't done their homework or turned it in, but those are two totally different steps. And doing their homework could be like 6 steps or something. So we
Well,
created this thing of the 12 steps, which is included in a new handout that we've got that we'll be giving people at the workshop.
yes. Well, and as you're saying that, I'm thinking about the intersection with executive function. And so part of the reason that we ended up with the steps is that, so for example, like when you get to the point where they're actually sitting down or standing up or wherever they're doing their homework,
Or
even
sitting in a
just
tree.
or sitting in a tree. You have a kid who used to sit in their tree. If we just look at the starting your homework and finishing your homework. Starting your homework might require initiation. I mean, we have some kids who like once they get started, they're fine. But it's the getting off the threshold, getting off the starting block that's their challenge because that's a particular executive function. Other kids, it might be avoiding distractions while they're trying to get it done, which is another executive function. And a third kid might be like they're keeping their energy up. And so if something's really long, eventually they fade off and they kind of shut down because it's taking them too much time. And so just in that little teeny tiny part of like doing one assignment, we've got three different potential executive function blocks. And you've got to really understand what's going on for your kid from an executive function perspective and not just from a homework perspective.
Well, and part of me is hearing you saying that, and I'm listening to the parents in my head saying, "But my kid's got all three."
Yeah, they do.
Well, and it's even more like you could even break that down more than that,
Yeah.
right? And so, and they might struggle in some areas. Like I had a kid who has dyslexia, and she really struggled when it came to language arts, reading, writing, but she didn't struggle when it came to math, right?
Yeah.
And so, math, she could get on it, get it done, get started, get finished. And if it came to like a writing assignment, there might need to be wall push-ups and snacks and breaks. And I remember one point she had like multiple watches with different timers set to keep herself engaged.
Well, and I think again, what you're describing, and my kiddo was exactly the opposite. So she was an English person and lots of English and loved to write, could write all day, but the math stuff was like pulling teeth. But I think that's another aspect of executive function that if something's really interesting, or conversely, if something's really boring or really hard, their ability to engage their brain is going to be different. And I know that just from listening to you talk about your daughter, she was interested and excited to do the homework. So it wasn't that she wasn't motivated, but because it was hard or different, hard or boring, I guess is the language I would use, the way she needed to engage her brain required an extra set of energy, an extra step, an extra something, right?
So can we talk about hard for a little bit? Because I
Yeah.
want to break down hard.
Okay.
Okay. So I've been talking a lot this year about what I call the effort tax, right?
Mhm.
The effort it takes. People with neurodiversity, with executive function challenges, very often have almost like an internal tax on having to do something that feels effortful. And that's going to change from person to person. And so, as you were talking about, like my kid was motivated to get her homework done because she wanted to do well in school. But you know what the hardest part of a writing assignment for her was? It was choosing a topic. Wasn't even writing. It was actually the choosing the topic because she kind of wanted to get that right.
It's like decision fatigue almost.
Almost decision fatigue, right?
Right.
And so the effort that it took I remember this one assignment, she must have been in middle school. The energy and effort that it took just to land the topic took days.
Well, and
And
you're saying that. Oh, so
go ahead. It's just
no,
exhausting, and we gotta remember that all kinds of different things take effort for our kids, and it's not gonna be the same on any given assignment or for any given kid, right?
well, and as you're saying that, what was coming up for me that we talk about so often is stress, right? It's this sort of
Mhm.
so you add on to the situation stress. So maybe it's they really want to get it right and they tend to have perfectionist tendencies, or it's for their it's for an important grade, or it's
For an
their
important
favorite
teacher.
teacher, or whatever else. It's sort of so you raise the bar on the stress level, raise the bar on the stress level, shrink the bar on the executive function capabilities. I mean, those
Yeah.
two are correlating. So, eh, and if we're chirping at them to get it done, and it's like, why are you taking so long to do this? And we're lighting a fire, and we think we're trying to motivate them, but what we're actually doing is raising the stress level. Executive functions are shutting down even further. I think we need
Yeah.
to make sure we're putting in a comment here about stress, either stress that they're imposing, stress that the teacher or an outsider might be imposing, or stress that we're inadvertently imposing just because we don't, like, I was on the phone with a mom the other day and she's like, why is my kid taking 3 hours to do their homework? I want to be
Mhm.
able to do X, Y, and Z. I want to move on to something else. And I don't feel like I can move on to something else while my kid is doing their homework. And I'm like, well, is your kid interested in doing their homework in less than 3 hours? No, they don't care. They don't want it. Right? So we add stress to the fire because we have our wants and needs. And it's hard when they are in competition with each other.
Yeah. Well, that brought up so many things.
This is a big
So many things.
doing the work, guys.
It's really, that's what the workshop's for. Here's the thing that's coming up really clearly as you're saying this is that, and we talk about this a lot, the key with navigating anything is to get clear on what's the problem we're really trying to solve. And, we are so good at jumping to solutions and throwing a solution in place and then trying to fix the problem when we haven't really slowed down to get clear that the problem is really what we think it is.
Oh, wait. I could tell my planner story and it would actually fit in. How many times do we tell the planner story and it doesn't fit in, but it's homework time and so we can talk about
Okay.
the planner.
So we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and you get to tell your planner story. You ready?
Yes.
Do you recognize current ADHD interventions fall short? At Dig Coaching, we have developed a new field of engineering and a new ADHD intervention called cognitive ergonomics from the inside out. To learn more, go to digcoaching.com/impact.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We are having a conversation about homework and kind of setting the stage for all the different ways that we think about it and look at it and the challenges that it brings, but also looking at the problem underneath the problem. And Diane is going to tell the planner story.
Well, the reason I'm telling this planner story, just to kind of reiterate, is that the comment you made was that we often come in with a solution, right? And so instead of starting with a solution, which is my kid needs to use his planner, we want to back up and go, what's the problem we're really trying to solve? And okay, they need to capture their assignments.
Can I just say one more thing? One
Yeah.
thing before. The planner, every kid in every school across, at least
I was going
across,
to talk about that. Yeah.
every kid everywhere is given a planner because
In
that
third
is
grade,
the
probably.
solution that some research sometimes showed worked better than 40% of the time or something like that.
Right. So
So
third grade in our school,
everybody's got it.
everybody got it. And in third grade, everybody taught their kids how to use their planner. And we know our kids are behind in executive function. So their ability in third grade to do the things that everybody else is doing and organize and use the planners is going to be slowed down. And so our kids might be ready to use a planner when they're more like fifth grade or sixth grade, but everybody learned how to do it in third grade. And so we've got this they weren't ready to do it when they learned. So there's the everybody gets a planner challenge. So that's the solution. Use the planner. The problem is our kids need to have a way and a process and a system for capturing assignments, some process and system, doesn't matter what. And what's really underneath that is what are their executive function strengths and what are their executive function challenges? So some kids are really good at remembering. I have one kid who, like, if you told him what his assignments were and you had his attention when you were telling him his assignments, he would remember them for a month, right? Because he had that good of a working memory. Other kids need to write them down and need to be able to track them and all that other stuff. So you've got to understand not to start with a solution, but to really start with the problem. I have to capture an assignment and know what my assignment is and the problem under the problem, which is, and I have a really poor working memory, or I'm going to forget by the time I get home or whatever it is.
And then we are like, well, but why can't they just use the planner?
Right.
But Diane, why can't every kid just use a planner?
Because it's not everybody's different. I think that a couple reasons. One is everybody's brain is different. Some people, it's really difficult to even use a planner. And the other piece of it is a lot of times when we come to our kids with a solution, rather than identifying what's the underlying problem, we miss the opportunity to kind of get their buy-in to solve the problem in the first place because we're saying just use a planner. And it's like, I don't want to do what you're telling me to do. because you're telling me how to do it and I want to figure it out myself. Right. So
Well,
there's that extra
that's what
layer
I
that
was thinking,
happens.
is that when we solve a problem for them, we are actually robbing them
Mm,
of the opportunity to learn how to problem solve for
yeah.
themselves,
Or to
right?
partner with us to problem solve if they can't quite do it on their own. But it's this sort of what could you do to capture your assignments or what help would you need could come up with 7 or 8 different solutions rather than just use the planner. Well, the punchline of the planner story is that my kid who had, 17 planners during school, who was never able to use a planner during school, I don't know, about a year ago, at age 25, said, "Mom, I bought a planner. I'm going to try to use it again." And like it lasted literally a week. And it's like, still cannot use the planner, even though they like bought it themselves and were ready to try it again.
Right. So not every system works for everybody by any stretch of the imagination. So part of what we're saying is when you're dealing with homework, you want to make sure you're clear what the real challenge is, what the obstacle is. And is it getting started? Is it sticking with it? Is it bringing your attention back when it starts getting dull or boring? Is it finishing it? Is it putting it away? Is it turning it in? Like there are lots of different steps. And I want to go back to what happens before all of that. Because for some of our kids, the problem is they're kind of not bought into, I really want to do this in the first place.
Mm.
And if you don't have their some level of ownership or buy-in to doing homework, you're going to pull some teeth along the process of trying to get it done.
Well, a couple things come up as you're saying that. One is, I can't tell you how many arguments I would have with my kids when the teacher says that this is optional, right? So the minute the word optional shows up, it's like all of a sudden optional means I don't have to do it,
You have
right?
to do.
Period.
Look what
I
it
don't.
does.
That's it. And it technically does. But we want them to have more practice and we want them to be accomplished and we want, it's the sort of, so we have something that's our agenda and not their agenda. And there's a whole other, isn't there a podcast about that when something's our agenda?
We're going to podcast about whose agenda is it. So, okay. So getting their buy-in. If you've got a kid who
Oh, I know what it was.
go,
It was now and not now, right? It's a sort of how many times do we come home and our kid comes home and we're like, okay, get your homework done now. Or you've got an assignment that's due next week. Why don't you do it now? Right? It's a sort of because we can figure out how to like if you get it done now, then you don't have to worry about it. But in there, if you've got a not now kid, so maybe I should explain that. So
I'm blindness.
there's 2 time zones in the neurospacey brain. There's now and there's not now. And so if the homework's not due now, meaning probably tomorrow, but maybe sometime before midnight tonight or whatever it is, it's not now. And so your ability to get them to do it now is going to be very different than that last minute urgent sort of thing. And so you may have a not now kid, which might be part of the problem. What?
There are just so many issues here. Okay. So there is when there's breaking down the issues. The more we can give our kids a sense of agency, the more involved they are, the more they own it. For the kids who really are having a hard time starting or even owning it, you may actually need to resolve that or address that with some different issues. It may not be strategies for doing the homework. You may have to go back a few steps before to get the buy-in, to get them to see what's in it for them, to help them feel a commitment to doing the homework because there's something about their education that they care about. There's something important about it to them so that it's not just, you got to do this because it's due, because it's your responsibility. Like we've got all these adult reasons we think they should do it. And for our kids, like if we want them to become lifelong learners, there's a piece about it that's about helping them see some value to themselves, some, if not benefit, some even responsibility for themselves because there's something important to them that they care about.
Well, and the converse of that is true as well, Elaine. We talk about this when we talk about motivation. How many times do we as parents look at a behavior and go, oh, they're just not motivated to do their homework? They might be really motivated to do their homework, but there's something else from an executive function perspective that's getting in their way. And even if they say, and a lot of times, particularly if you've got older kids or teens, they get into this pattern of saying, I don't care, this isn't important, because they don't understand why it's hard for them. And so they make up, it feels better to say, I don't care than it does to say, I'm having a really hard time getting this done.
That's so true. That's so true. I think that they like helping them see why, their why. I remember when my kids had the psychiatrist called it an existential crisis in high school, because they were having such a hard time trying to take chemistry, and they didn't see the value to them. And, we had to pull back where the value was actually they wanted to go to college, which was a long way away, but they did know they wanted to go there. And so they had to find some reason to motivate themselves to want to do it before they could come up with a strategy to get themselves to do it. And to your point, the opposite is also sometimes true. Like I had one kid who looked at me, who cared a lot, and said, Mom, don't you see that if I haven't done it, I haven't done it wrong? Yeah. So the perfectionism was actually preventing them from doing the work. It wasn't that they didn't care. It was that they cared so much. And so sometimes that's what we mean by getting underneath it and figuring out what the real obstacle is, because then you're really addressing the actual problem instead of just trying to put a solution or a fix in place.
Well, and so that was how I was going to bottom line this whole thing. It's like there's this you've got to be really clear the problem that you're trying to solve. You've got to have their cooperation and connection and collaboration to do it together and not have it just be you pushing something on them. And it has to come to them with clarifying the problem rather than just coming to them with a solution.
Beautiful. Anything else?
We talked about so much. What do you want to take away? Let's do the wrap up. Like, what is it that you want to take away from this millions of things we talked about having to do with homework today?
Right. What's the insight that you feel like gives you something you could use to apply in your life this week? Some awareness, some insight, some strategy. And how do you want to bring it forward into your life?
Awesome.
And as always, friends, thank you for what you're doing for yourself and for your kids. You make this huge difference, and you're being here, listening, tuning in, just thinking about how do you want to think about homework sets the stage for success in school for you and for the family dynamic. So bravo. And hopefully we'll see you at Homework Without Headaches.
Yeah,
Take care,
next time.
everybody.
You've been listening to the Parenting with Impact podcast with Elaine and Diane. For more information on the Impact Parents community or to join Sanity School for Parents, please visit impactparents.com. If you like what you've heard, please share this podcast with friends who need similar guidance and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.